In this video, we're going to look at how to solve a basic rational equation. Now, rational equations are equations where our variables may be in the denominator of a fraction rather than having just fractions in front of the variables. Now, this can cause some issues because we forget where things are, or maybe we like to write things horizontally and then it's harder to figure out what's on top and what's on bottom. But really, the goal for these is to just get rid of the fractions and turn them into a standard equation that we're used to solving. So in order for us to do that here, we want to find the least common denominator and multiply each and every term by that denominator. Now, when I'm finding my least common denominator, something that I like to do is write out basically what do I use to get each of these things, right? So there's two different ways to do this. So one way is to say, okay, 4x is really 2 times 2 times x. And then 2x is really just 2 times x. I'm just going to line up anything that matches. And 7, well, 7 literally has nothing similar to anything else. I'm going to put it kind of over by itself. So then the least common denominator, I'm going to make sure I have one thing from each column. So again, 2 times 2 times x times 7. Again, that's one of the reasons why I'm just writing what's matching so that I know that it's already kind of accounted for. So 2 times 2 times 7 gives me 28, and of course the x is still there. So this is one way to find the least common denominator. Another way to do it is to write out multiples of each of the terms and then figure out where they overlap. But I do like this strategy. If you need to see that again, feel free to go back to a little bit earlier in the video. I do like this strategy because it's very procedural, which means that it works all the time and you don't have to worry about like how far do you have to go to find a multiple of everything. So by breaking it down and figuring out what's common and what's not, it kind of makes it a little bit easier. So now that we know our least common denominator is 28x, let's go ahead and apply that to this problem. So I'm just going to rewrite the problem just a little bit more spaced out to make it easier to multiply through. And now I'm going to again multiply each thing by that least common denominator. So 28x times 28x times and 28x times. Ta-da! And I want to simplify each of these fractions as much as possible. Now, when I look at this first fraction, I see that my x's cancel. I also see the x's cancel in the second fraction, so I'm just going ahead and cross those out. The other thing that I can see is when I do 28 divided by 4, that's going to give me 7. And 7 times 5 is all that's left, is 35. If you have picked the correct least common denominator, everything will cancel. Okay, so that's kind of a nice thing. Here, 28 divided by 2 is 14. And 14 times 1 is 14. Here, I have to keep the x, but 28 divided by 7 is 4. So now I have 4x times 3, which is 12x. At this point, we can see that this is a much simpler problem, okay? Because now I just have a combined like term step, which is going to be 21. And then I have equals 12x. I'm going to then divide both sides by 12 to get x by itself. And I do want to simplify this answer. So 21 and 12, I can divide both of those by 3. So that's 7 over 4. Now, before we write down our answer in the homework system, we do want to double check that it works. That's one of the weird things about rational equations is that we sometimes do get answers that don't work. So we always want to plug it back into the original version of the equation and check it, okay? So here we're going to check 7/4 by replacing every x in the equation with 7/4. When we've done that, we are going to then plug it into our calculator. That's a fine thing to do. Or you can do it manually, and we're going to see, does it come out to be the same thing? So I'm going to start with this part here. Okay, I do like to do it kind of piece by piece. When I simplify this, either in my calculator or by hand, I end up canceling these 4s, and I have 5/7. Over here, my 2 and my 4 cancel to leave me with a 2. And 1/7 is 2/7. Again, if you did that on your calculator, you would see that. Again, and notice I'm putting a question mark over the equal sign for each of these steps because I'm checking. I'm not saying they're true until I can see that they're true. But of course, 5/7 minus 2/7, 5 minus 2 is 3/7, which does equal 3/7. So it does work. I do get to keep my answer. I input into the homework system. I get my points. I am very happy. All right, that is your intro example to solving a rational equation.